night, Barbados. A blessed good night to the Democratic Labour Party family. Those of you who are here with us tonight, those who would have braved the weather, those of you watching online in Barbados and across the diaspora, in New York, London, Toronto, the constituencies of St. Michael South, St. Michael South East, South Central, Christchurch West, and to my people of St. Michael East, special welcome to you. I am Nicholas Aline, and I will be your chairperson tonight. And as we proceed, I would like to acknowledge the President of the Democratic Labour Party and the future Prime Minister of Barbados, Dr. Ronnie Hayward, and to all of my comrades and colleagues here tonight. As we move into this evening's proceedings, I'd like to first invite and welcome a positive young man, a young man who continues to give of his best to his country through ministries, a man by the name of Matthew Thorne, who would lead us off in a word of prayer.
A blessed and wonderful good night, beautiful Barbados. It is an honor to lead you in prayer before the throne of righteousness. Proverbs 16:3 reminds us to commit our plans to God the Father, and it assures us He will direct and prosper them, as long as we amplify His presence in this great nation. Would you pray with me? Creator God and Father, humbly yet boldly we approach your throne tonight. Thankful for your protection, steadfast love, food to eat, a job to go to, a roof over our head, life in our bodies, guidance and grace. Owed to none, yet lavishly bestowed on all. Great King, is there any like you in the earth? Is there any like you in the universe? No, not one. Lord, according to your word in Job chapter 41, you challenge your servant and son, displaying your boundless power and limitless control, asserting and reaffirming that you are the I am that I am. It is with this confidence and reassurance that we know it is you, Yahweh, that we pray to tonight. Your counsel in Revelation 1 describes you as the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Lord, even though you transcend this, in our mortality, we remember our fallen comrades. Dr. Dennis Lowe, Neville Lane, Lena George, Marcia Gasking, also known as Mother B, Stetson Jackman, and Carl King. We also pray for others who lost fathers, mothers, uncles, aunts, siblings, children, family, and friends. And as the Word of God reminds us in Romans 12:15, we mourn with you, the people of St. Michael, surrounding areas, and our beloved Democratic Labour Party family. And in time, we will rejoice with you also. Holy Spirit, be a comfort to those who mourn. Wrap your loving arms around them and give them your peace. Let their peace be stayed on 2 Corinthians 1:4, which reads, who comforts us in every trouble and loss, so that we may be able to comfort and console and encourage those who are in any kind of trouble or distress, with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by the Holy Spirit. Lord, we know their time with us has come to an end. And we also know, by your grace through faith, they now dance with you in glory. Father, we have been blessed by these exemplars who exuded gumption, gravitas, and a love for people. John 13:35 reads, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. Lord God, we know that you are in control. Help us individually and collectively to declare and decree righteous and lawful what you accept as righteous and lawful, and to condemn with the power of our tongue that which is unrighteous and unlawful. I ordain a new time and season and profitable law tonight in Jesus' name. Jesus, despite the fear, hopelessness, and despair in our country, let your spirit be elevated through us, online here and in Barbados, so that we transition from fear to love, from loss to peace, and from hurt to hope. Heavenly Father, I ask that you meet needs here tonight. Let their hearts be at peace and grant them your knowledge, your wisdom, and your understanding as they prosper and enjoy every abundance in Jesus' name. Yeshua, we give thanks for this opportunity, and we ask that you help every speaker to unpack their message and to deliver as intended. Dear Jesus, may we say boldly tonight, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Yahweh, even though things are out of control, we know that you are in control and can bring all things under control. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Friends, just for a moment, for our beloved that have fallen, if we could just have a moment of silence. Thank you. They will truly, truly be missed. My friends, from my heart, it is a pleasure to have you here tonight. May you all be blessed, informed, and empowered. Thank you.
I really want to thank Comrade Matthew for starting us off the right way tonight with a powerful prayer. And I too want to pay tribute and acknowledge our fallen comrades. The Democratic Labour Party thanks you for your service and dedication, and may you all continue to rest in peace. Comrades, sometimes the passing of a friend or a loved one often causes us to reflect on our own lives. And as we reflect, we are grateful to be alive and have hopes of a prosperous future. But you see, right now, prosperity in this country is seriously under threat. And almost everywhere I go, all I hear sometimes is, boy, Nicholas thinks dread, despite voting red. The cost just to stay afloat in this country is unconscionable. And I'm not talking about living large and in luxury, just the simple basics. So many Barbadian families find it difficult to afford. I mean, even the cost of Mobi have seen a significant increase in recent months. And what is this government doing? Taking a few cents here off a handful of items, things out of control. Crime. Ladies and gentlemen, just 2 nights ago, yet another one of our young men fell victim to the epidemic of violent crime that is plaguing this country. and he leaves 2 young daughters to fend for themselves. How many more lives must be lost and families ruined before we can see some effective action to deal with this gun violence in this country? How many more? But we can't have effective action under an attorney general who has the record of the 3 highest murder rates in this country's history, and all he could do is smile. Smile. Comrades, I'm not done yet. We can't forget the state of healthcare in this country. Right now, the QEH taking on more water than people. Because the wait times at the QEH are literally killing people. The patients under pressure, the doctors under pressure, the nurses under pressure, even the newly renovated accident and emergency building is under pressure. What is this government doing? Just more talk, no meaningful action, issue after issue, problems on top of problems. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, you are here tonight. This is why we call on you to come out tonight. Because things out of control. Things in Barbados just out of control. And the Democratic Labour Party is here tonight to express your concerns. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a strong team here tonight. We have a very strong, dedicated team here tonight. And our first speaker tonight is the chair of our working group on health, a pharmacist by profession. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome my friend, my colleague, Mr. Paul Gibson.
Success don't come overnight. No make them know a substance over hype. Do it for the love, me not do it for the light. No for them love likes, that's alright. Sit down on a post and a tweet all night. See them on social media type. While like said them they studio advice. Oh, me never put them up on no flight. And me never see them a live no tour life. You miss someone now you have so much life.
Good night, Democratic Labour Party family. Good night, Barbadians. Good night to our online audience listening tonight. We want to welcome you here tonight to say that we are happy that you've come out. We are happy that you are here to hear to echo what you are saying to us. We are here tonight to echo your voice and to make sure that your message is being sent. There's a lot happening in Barbados, and we thought it necessary in this month, at this time, to come here to address some issues on your behalf. And I want you to give yourselves a round of applause for coming out, for braving the weather. It's good to see so many of you here, and I want to say, keep coming. And keep locked tonight, because we have a lot to share with you tonight. Tonight we have listened to you. The Democratic Labour Party has listened to your voice. And we are going to tell you we are going to tell everybody what you are actually saying, because there are so many concerns. Things are out of control. And I want you to remember that tagline, because from time to time I'll ask you to say, all that you've been hearing and seeing has been a lot of smoke and mirrors. But tonight, I want you to know that we are going to tell you the truth, the clear and unequivocal truth as to what is happening in this country. As I said, you are important, and your voice is important. Health and healthcare is a human right, and it is not a privilege for the few, but a right for every citizen of Barbados, whether you are small, big, rich, or poor. And how does health really affect you and affect us and affect our families? According to the Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we all have fundamental rights to health. There's never a time where your family and your health is not important. It is a fundamental right. And tonight, we want to say to you that there are challenges surrounding health in this country. As the chairman of the working group on health, I want to let you know that the polyclinic system in Barbados is under pressure. It is failing a lot of Barbadians. It is the primary care of Barbadians is something that is important. Many of us grew up and remember when we could go to the polyclinic and get our vaccinations. We can go and get help with managing our pressure, get help managing our sugar, get mental health care, see the dentist. This is how we grew up. But in 2022, we have a situation where when you go to a polyclinic in Barbados, sometimes you see only one doctor and one nurse on a shift for a health region. Did you hear what I said? One doctor and one nurse for an entire health region. And people would have made appointments, made a 3-month appointment, and 6 months later sometimes, because of the workload of the nurses and the doctors, those appointments have to be delayed and pushed back. And you would have made and asked permission for relief from your workplace so that you could go and see the doctor to take your child. You may actually have to lose a salary sometimes to go and see the doctor at the polyclinic. And to go and just have one doctor and one nurse is certainly not good. It is not enough. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say to you that the Democratic Labour Party is saying that the primary health care in this country needs to be addressed. And let me say to you that we are not criticizing the doctors and the nurses and the other pharmacists and the healthcare professionals. What we're saying to them, we know that they're under pressure. We know that they are under pressure. Because through the COVID pandemic, a lot of them didn't take vacation. But what is happening is that they are not putting enough behind the human resource. The nurses and the doctors and the pharmacists are burnt out. And before this government looks at funding the primary care system in Barbados, they're flying all over the place. Flying all over the place, spending millions of dollars, and not addressing some fundamental issues of Barbadians. Tonight, we want to make sure that we make some suggestions to the government as to how to address this matter. But we will do that a little later, because we realize that at the polyclinic level, things are out of control. Things are out of control. You make a 9 o'clock appointment and when 2 o'clock p.m., you cannot see a doctor. You cannot see a doctor. We are having a situation in Barbados, particularly over the last 2 years, where Barbadians are leaving the private practitioners in Barbados because they cannot afford to go to a medical doctor like one time. They can't do it. Because of the economic situation, because of the high prices, because of the high gas prices, because of the high electricity bills, they are no longer able to push their hands in their pocket and take their children and themselves to a private doctor the way they used to do before. So it means that the private care system at the polyclinic setting is where they will take their children to be seen. And the reason being is that that is really all they can afford at this time. Am I right or wrong? The food prices are high, as I said. The gas prices are high. and everything has gone up very dramatically. It is important that many Barbadians are no longer left to the whims and fancy of this government. But something substantial needs to happen. I do not know what would have happened if our comrade John Boyson spearhead the building of Bester Santos Lab. That is how you run. That is how you run it. And that took us through the last 2.5 years. They said, they talk about the last decade. No. Let me tell you something. That singular building took us through that pandemic. The Blackman Gullop location that was specially built was also a project of the Democratic Labour Party. And that took us, and this is what I'm talking about. You need to put money and funding where it matters and where it impacts Barbadians. Not just the rich, and not just feeding the poor money cash, but for the middle class, they're important too. They're important too, and they're the ones that are feeling it at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, the question is, how did we become like this? How would we get our polyclinics back to where it needs to be? Where people are seen in a timely fashion, where the chronic non-communicable diseases are managed effectively. Polyclinics were already struggling to deliver healthcare quality before when this government took over, before the pandemic. And I'm going to tell you something, they have not recovered. They actually took the time to open a 24-hour facility at Sir Winston Scott Polyclinic. And let me tell you something, it is so difficult to get care at that location. It is tremendously difficult because there is not enough nursing staff. There's a shortage of approximately 250 nurses. A shortage of 250 nurses. And you're going to try to open 2 24-hour facilities? Does that make sense? Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? The government has yet to acknowledge that their failure is affecting Barbadians and that the cost of living is causing tremendous pressure on our families. The high unemployment rate, the lack of opportunities in the public sector means that they are overwhelmed. They are overwhelmed because that is where people have to go, ladies and gentlemen. The government needs to properly fund the polyclinics and prioritize their services. They need to adequately have enough doctors and nurses. They need to have the requisite medical equipment and supplies and proper human resource planning for those institutions. You know, this is not just about health in 2022, but it is about health excellence. That is what we need to be giving to our Barbadian people. We have to be improving not only the experience, but the processes in the polyclinic sector. No one should have to take a day off from work, a whole day, to be seen by a doctor. The Democratic Labour Party understands that service excellence in healthcare is what the people of Barbados deserve. That is what the people of Barbados deserve. And I need to take a pause at this time to pay tribute to the hard-working doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and other healthcare professionals that have committed themselves over the last couple of years because they are burnt out. They are at their wits' end, and I want you to give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, tonight. Give them a round of applause. The reality is that there's only so much that one person can do. We can't provide service excellence if our caregivers are burnt out. These are the issues government should be properly engaging and addressing. But no, instead, they're flying all over the place. Borrowing money, but we cannot see where that money is going. We're not seeing jobs for that money. We're seeing no new buildings and hotels coming up. No. But you know what? When the money's done, you know what they do? Borrow more. They do what? Borrow more. And you and I and our children have to pay that back. The Democratic Labour Party and the people of Barbados are calling for greater focus on community medicine, where the critical conditions being seen at the primary care level are effectively addressed in a timely manner, where resources are given to buy much needed supplies and equipment to ensure that there are diagnostic tools available for the medical staff in the polyclinics, to make sure that if you're going to have polyclinics going for 24 hours, that there's actually an X-ray unit, so they don't have to leave the polyclinic and go to the hospital. Cardiac enzyme measurements to determine if people are having heart attacks or heartburn. These are basic things, and even minor op surgeries to do minor procedures at the primary care level. Because, in other words, a full and well-outfitted polyclinic that better serves the needs of Barbadians. Ladies and gentlemen, we're also seeing something happening in Barbados that is very disconcerting. Nutritional diseases are again on the rise in Barbados because hard-working Barbadian mothers, parents, and providers are unable to afford quality and quantity of food. Children are going to bed hungry, and so are adults, because many mothers says, I'm not going to eat, but I want my child to eat. So you not only have children going to bed in some situations, but you have adults going to bed hungry at night. Many of us may have grown up in situations where this was the norm, where things were rough. But many of us came out of that, and we had passed that. But this government has caused us to be back in this situation. Food, my friends, is a basic fundamental for good health. It is a fundamental building block of good health. And many Barbadians may have a situation where for the first time in a long time, they cannot afford to eat. And I want to say that that has happened under this government. Barbadians deserve better. Barbadians deserve a first world healthcare system. Do you know why they deserve a better healthcare system? I'll tell you why. Because this government has put something called a health levy and is taking money out of your pay pack monthly and weekly. And it is not getting better. They're taking money out of your pay pack monthly and weekly, and your healthcare system is getting worse. Does that make sense? I go a step further, things are out of control, I'm telling you. I'm going a step further. Not only do they give you a health levy and take money out of your salary monthly and weekly, but this year you put what? A pandemic levy. My goodness. A pandemic levy. Could you imagine? More weight, more taxes. I heard a gentleman say on the radio that this is the lowest tax rate that corporations ever had, but I had to remind them it is the highest tax rate that Barbadians have ever paid in the history of Barbados. In the history of this country, it is the highest tax rate that we have ever paid. Bajans are sucking salt, ladies and gentlemen. They are sucking salt. Things are out of control. And I want to move now to something. I want to go to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. I want you to say, oh there. I can't hear you say, oh there. Oh, dear, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When I say to you that the Democratic Labour Party understands and connects with you, I know exactly what many of us are feeling and have experienced. It is my belief that had my beautiful, precious mother, Shirley Gibson, not spend an entire day in A&E waiting for a bed, an entire day, that my precious mother would still be with us today. This is my personal belief. And many of you have experienced that. I can call names now, but I don't want to. Many people have come crying, why? What? And I said, I understand. I know your pain. I feel it. Because I know that if she was sent up to the ward, C5, 24 hours earlier, that she would probably be playing with her grandchildren now today. And they would not be feeling the hurt of losing their precious grandmother, the only remaining one. You see, when we talk about health, health is real. Health is people. You can't play too much politics in health, you know. But you need to fix the thing. You need to fix it. You need to sort it out. You need to get it right. Comrades, ladies and gentlemen, I share your pain for your families, your children, the elderly, who would have given the best years of their life, particularly the elderly, would have given the best years of their life to this country, Barbados. The best years, the 60s and the 70s. And you're going to tell me that the system now, that they're in their old age, is going to fail them? That should not be. They work hard. And so this government needs to get their act together. They need to deal with the issues of supplies, of hospital medical supplies. They need to deal with the issue of the number of nursing staff and get it sorted out. They need to deal with the challenges of securing adequate mental health for persons that need it. Mental health. The pandemic and the stress of the economy has put a lot of Barbadians into depression. A lot of mothers who wake up scratching their head. School just started back, and a lady told me last week, she said, look, I gave my son $20 on Monday for school. And when he came back home, she said, you have $10? She said, no, mommy. I spent $14 in bus fare. And it hit her, oh my goodness, for the next 10 days, I have to look for $200 a day for this youngster. In 30 days, that's $600. And she has a few children very well. Let me tell you something. The pressure of buying food, it is significant. And the government has continued to put tremendous pressure on the people of Barbados. And I'm going to tell you this. Surgeries at the QEH are being put off. Not only because we're in a pandemic. I know people year after year after year that cannot get procedures done. And I'll tell you something. I heard the Attorney General make his utterance. And it was very, to me, in my opinion, it was very callous what he said. Because what he didn't realize in his statement is that he was denying the fact that the blood supplies at the blood bank at the QEH are being consumed because of gun violence and violent crimes in this country. And there's an inextricable association between the two. And he is not picking that up. What a sad state we're in. How could he not see that a mother who is bleeding in a surgery because she's going to lose her baby, or a little child, or somebody who legitimately has to have a surgery, one another and trying to save the life because of blood? Something is wrong with that. Sort out the thing. It needs to be sorted. Things are out of control. And we need to continue to say it. Don't stop saying it. Things are out of control. They need to take responsibility. I want to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, that you deserve better. Let me explain. $39 million were spent on the A&E. They opened the mouth of the thing and left the exit the same size. In other words, when it was small, they had the same exit from the A&E department. They built a $39 billion facility and left the exit the same size. It means that the government was clueless about building that facility. Because if it was that they could just build a facility and fix the problem, it would have been fixed. Right or wrong? But you are seeing more people lying in the corridors of the QEH than you've ever seen before in the history of this country. Because they don't understand that bedboard management is important and that having enough beds is important. They don't understand that getting people off of the A&E department onto the wards needs to be better managed. There are algorithms used at international hospitals where the length of time that someone stays on a bed, the length of time somebody stays for a surgery is already calculated, give or take a couple days, give or take a couple hours. And that research has already been done for us. And if we engage that technology, we would find that our throughput and movement of patients would significantly be managed much, much better. That is one of the many solutions that we are looking at. A bedboard management system that facilitates proper management of patient movement so that there's not a big backup and build-up in the A&E, but people are flowing onto the wards. We even need to consider the 24-hour facility for pharmacy so that people that will be discharged in the morning have their prescriptions filled at night so that they can leave and free up beds to get 15, 20 beds so that the A&E can think. So I'm telling you, when they built that facility, they did not have a clue what they were doing. They were spending the people's money, but it wasn't to any end that would improve the quality of what they have. And somebody said anyway, let me just stay away from that. Somebody said something, I'm not going to think. And let me tell you something. People talk about somebody getting a cut back. I'll tell you something. It is important to remember that the vaccine thing that happened the other day is not off the table. Somebody making a profit of $24 million off of the backs of Barbadians, it has not gone off the table. We have not forgotten that. They did it in the middle of COVID. You can imagine what $24 million would do for Barbadians. And a few people get that as profit. Something is fundamentally wrong. We cannot get drugs in this country at some of the pharmacies. Some of you have taken prescriptions from pharmacy to pharmacy to pharmacy because drugs are out of stock. Not because of the pharmacists, but because there's no supply of drugs. It is something that needs to be seriously looked at and seriously addressed. So as I land the plane, ladies and gentlemen, people will say, but what are the solutions? Give us some solutions. And I'll very quickly say to you this. I'm convinced that increasing primary care is the foundation of good health. Increasing access to primary care and primary care services can help to prevent many health problems here in the island. I also believe that the second point is that we can improve coordination between different levels of care. Example, between primary care and specialists. And this is essential in ensuring that patients are given important and necessary service. I also want to re-emphasize that reducing the medical errors is also facilitated by giving your personnel some space, giving them time off, and having enough human resource to manage, because you're going to have more errors when people are working harder, longer hours. So we need to take care of our doctors, our nurses, our pharmacists, and our other healthcare practitioners. Somebody said we must pay the nurses. We must pay them. They are an important asset We must urgently address the human resource shortage in the health facility. Reducing the waiting times is now very, very important. Reducing the waiting times is important. I will close by saying this, ladies and gentlemen. What I have laid out for you tonight are some of the key. I didn't go granular. I went to the top key things that would bring value and give advantage to the health situation in this country. I focused on areas that the government, if they were serious, could help to lift this country up in terms of health care. Because when the water rise, all ships rise. When the water rise, all ships rise. And it's about time that they get it right. We, the Democratic Labour Party, will continue to listen to you. We will continue to listen to your voice, and we will continue to represent you. We are here to serve you. Reach out to us, talk to us, and we will send your message loud and clear to this government. It is time to tell them things are out of control. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. God bless you, and God bless this wonderful country, Barbados. God bless you.
No, every time I rise, we do it for the love, and I do it for the lights. Do it for the love, and I do it for the lights. Do it for the love, and I do it for the lights. Do it for the love, and I do it for the lights. Make them know success don't come overnight. No make them know a substance over hype. Do it.
Thank you, Comrade Gibson. Health is real. Health is people. Healthcare holds a significant place in the quality of human capital. The increased expenditure in healthcare increases the productivity of human capital, thus making a positive contribution to economic growth. Thank you, Paul Gibson, for that excellent presentation. Our next speaker I want to introduce tonight, our chairperson of the Working Group of Education. I'd like to introduce tonight Ms. Melissa Savory Gittins.
Said all the things, it's like them and want to see my people win. I said jealousy and grudges are sin. Talk the things them boys say. They said all the things, some of them just want easy living. And success reach them watching your things. So you want to show out, they can't talk to me. Guardian angels watch over me. Every man and I kneel down and pray for my family. Look, I say, you want to show out, no bad company. Could take away one job give to me.
Good night, talk the things. I am here tonight to talk the things. But before I do, let me say good night, Barbados. Good night, Democratic Labour Party family, my dear loving people. Good night to all of our online viewers. I'm happy to be here, to be part of this progressive movement under the big tent, and a part of the dear loving party of the Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow. I grew up a mere stone throw away from here in Dighton Road, and I feel right at home tonight. Tonight, I am here because of education and the educational policies of the Democratic Labour Party. And I'm sure many because of that as well. So ladies and gentlemen, again, I am Melissa. I want to commend and support my comrade, Paul Gibson, for giving a wake-up call to the government about the continued decline of the healthcare system in Barbados. Ladies and gentlemen, regrettably, it's not just the healthcare system alone that needs resuscitation. It's also our once-prized education system that is also flatlining and needs to be shocked and brought back to life. So many things in this country are out of control. When it isn't a roof blowing off of a school that recently was repaired, and I think that it's the same contractor that would have probably fixed the QEH, no thinking about it. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Schools are still not open as they are still under repair after weeks of summer vacation. It's not the first time, but you know, I always heard if you keep doing the same things and getting the same results, what I mean? Not me, I'm not a medical doctor, so I'll leave that right there. Y'all can say whatever y'all want to say. Our schools being open with cow itch on the premises. So even the cow itch out of control. For the first time in 1-2 years, teachers and parents are back to the realities of face-to-face classes. This was pleasing to see. However, the pinch for some was a squeeze for some others and a bear hug, even so for more. Because what? Prices are what? Out of control. School bags, shoes, books, and all the extra things that are needed, games, clothes. Look, I received so many phone calls asking for help with back-to-school supplies because people in this country are suffering. They are suffering financially. They are suffering emotionally. Persons are having anxiety attacks as they work hard to ensure, and they work hard to ensure an entire week. Sometimes they work hard to ensure they can buy a good quality school bag. You imagine going to work a whole week to buy one school bag? If you have 4 or 5 children, what's going to happen? They're going to go and share the school bag. One body right today, somebody else right tomorrow. What's going to happen? What are these parents to do? Parents, be assured the Democratic Labour Party will continue to listen and to try our best, even without, because we don't have any financial support. So with our limited resources, we are going to try to help you however we can. We understand and we know without a shadow of a doubt that you and you deserve better. You all deserve better. And we, the Democratic Labour Party, are here for you. We are listening to you. But do you know who's clearly not listening? Clearly not understanding the pain and your hurt and what you're going through? The government of Barbados. If we had a government that worked, if we had a government that cared, and if we had a government that knew what it was doing, and if they were listening, they would know what we know. They would know that what? Things out of control. Unemployment out of control. We get calls every day asking about jobs. Cost of living out of control. Now, some people might say, but how you can say that? We just get a nice basket of goods there with reduced prices. Anybody get that? I still waiting. Taxes on top of taxes on top of duties. Out of control. Why hasn't government removed taxes and duties on school supplies in order to ease the burden of parents or caregivers? This would be a holistic approach to education, where all inputs into education must be and would be affordable. This is a holistic approach that the Democratic Labour Party clearly understands. I'm a part of a party who understands. We understand that we can't empower our children and ensure that they have the best education if they can't afford the tools needed for empowerment and success. Comrades, ladies and gentlemen, it's not only the cost of living putting students at risk, it's the delusion of this government that the last 2 years where COVID-19 affected all of us, especially our students, did not happen. And it's all is well that ends well. That's the attitude that we have been receiving. Too many students, our children, through no fault of their own, have fallen behind because of COVID-19, as our school system does not have the infrastructure to ensure our students were not disadvantaged. Many of them had no laptops, no computers, no tablets, no internet, therefore little to no school time. No electricity, no extracurricular activities, and they can go on and on and on. But you don't need me to tell you because you have experienced it for yourself. We all have experienced it, and we continue to experience it every day. Yet, government is sitting with its head buried in the sand, refusing to acknowledge that the students need to catch up. Our students are behind and need to catch up. We all know the difficulties students, parents, and teachers had during COVID, and yet there's nothing happening to supplement the educational loss. Why has school restarted and there's clearly no change in the curriculum to help these children catch up? Why are our children being left behind to fall by the wayside because some parents can't afford to take them to lessons? Why aren't stakeholders meetings being held to determine what is the best way to move forward to ensure that our children who are struggling with lack of opportunity and lack of employment due to lack of education? Because if they don't have the education, where are they going to work? Who's going to hire them? And then we complain about crime. Come on, what do we expect them to do? Yes, teachers are here to help, but who's going to help the teachers? As a Democratic Labour Party, we understand teachers want and need additional support. Someone to tell us, what are the plans for the after-school programs? What are the plans for additional lessons? What are the plans to assist teachers and parents to get students where they need to be educationally and emotionally? Why hasn't this administration assessed the number of students that have fallen behind? How many? How many have fallen behind? They don't know, they can't tell you, they don't know. Why is there no formula of a policy agenda? Why is there a formulation of a policy agenda? This will help students to catch up. Why? What's the problem with all these consultants? We can't get it done? What's the issue? Now answer this question. We are now what? Second Minister of Education? When you think things would get better, apparently they're only getting worse. I mean, come on. For the sake of us, I'm imploring the government. In fact, I'm at the stage where I'm no longer imploring. I am begging the government on behalf of our students, parents, and teachers. I'm also begging on behalf of myself. Why on behalf of me? Because these students of today are going to be our leaders tomorrow. Those are going to be our prime ministers, our healthcare workers, teachers, pharmacists, accountants, everything. They are the next Barbados. Those are the ones that are going to take care of me and you. But they can't do that because why? This lost education gap. And we need to fill it in order to prepare our students for success. Now, again, why can't the government bring together the stakeholders? Who are these stakeholders I talk about? The PTAs, the ministry, the schools, the students, the civil society, private sector, and craft what my team and I call ASAP. What ASAP means? As soon as possible. But for us, it means assessing and addressing students' ability post-pandemic. So let me repeat that. Assessing and addressing students' ability post-pandemic. We need ASAP, ASAP. So we need assessing and addressing post-pandemic as soon as possible. So we need help. We need a better handle on students and getting them up to scratch. Earlier, I mentioned teachers, but let me tell you a little bit more about teachers. You see, teachers give up their best, and I truly believe this. But how they are treated is what? Out of control. Unfortunately, they're always the last to know what is happening in their own environment. Most, if not all, teachers have to use their own resources to ensure that they can complete day-to-day tasks. Some stay after school to ensure that their students can catch up, and they do it for free. Yet government is placing a heavier and a heavier burden on our teachers. And many teachers are telling me, I get phone calls too, yes, telling me it's going to be rough trying to get students up to date and up to scratch to where they would have lost in the last 2 years. This means extra work is needed, but obviously not during school time because there's so much more to do. The Democratic Labour Party understands the tough position that teachers are in. And therefore, we call on government once again, we are calling on government to support and assist teachers during this transition back to face-to-face classes, providing them with the tools that they need in order to ensure students are successful. Now, let me tell you about my story about teachers. When I was in primary school, I had 2 teachers. Well, I had more than 2 teachers. But these 2 teachers I'm going to tell you about were 2 teachers that were near and dear to my heart. And anybody who went to St. Paul's Primary School may know of Miss Joseph and Mr. Clark. Miss Joseph used to teach lessons after school. My mother couldn't afford to send me to lessons. But Miss Joseph said, come along, don't mind Melissa, come to lessons. So she was a teacher that cared. And I appreciate her to this day. And Mr. Clark, when my mother couldn't get my school uniforms, he made sure that when I was transitioning to secondary school, I had some uniforms to wear to school. So for me, teachers play a very pivotal role in children's lives and in our own lives as adults, because today I am where I am because of my teachers. Now I have a friend who always speaks about a lecture that he had when he was at Barbados Community College. So the teachers don't only help from children young. He was at Barbados Community College and he said he was failing all of his subjects. And his teacher pulled him aside and said, listen, you have so much potential. You have so much potential and you can do a lot better. And he said he felt so badly, you know, but he said it motivated him to do what? Study and do his work. And he said, and since then until now, he's never failed a subject. Because he realized, I can do better. Nobody has ever told me. He said, Melissa, nobody has ever told me that. I always thought, you know, I just doing this thing. But then he realized, I could actually do better. I can make something of myself. And he has made a lot of himself today. There are but a few of these experiences, not only mine, but I bet that probably if you think back of your own lives, that you have some experiences that you can think about where your teacher was helpful to you and the excellent work that they do. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we clearly see a holistic approach to education, and we see that this approach is desperately needed. To this government, I know you are out there listening. And if you're not listening, I'm sure somebody is going to tell you. Parents, students, and teachers want relief. They don't only want it, they need relief. We as a country want our children to succeed. They are the light of our future. Let me repeat that. They are the light of our future. Please don't dim that light. People of Barbados, this Democratic Labour Party that I am a part of will continue to press government to ensure that our students have a fighting chance again to succeed. Not just the ones who were able to transition well during COVID, but all of our students. We, the Democratic Labour Party, will provide students with that hope once again that they too can succeed and have an opportunity to create wealth for themselves and their families, because we can no longer afford to have things out of control. Thank you, Barbados. We, the Democratic Labour Party, are here because of you. We are here because things are out of control, and to give you hope that they can once again be under control. Thank you and have a good night.
It's like them and want to see my people win. I say jealousy and grudges are sin. Talk the things them boys say. They say talk the things. Some of them just want easy living, not success. Watching your things, so you want show out. They can't talk to me. God.
ASAP. Our educational system needs that. Assessing and addressing our students' ability as soon as possible. It is okay for the government to reach out and reach across for solutions to assist our nation's children. After all, these are our next leaders. So reach out. I want to congratulate my comrade Melissa Savory Gittins for an excellent presentation. I want to introduce our next speaker tonight, a young man hailing from Christchurch, East Central, my personal friend and comrade, chair of the Working Group on Youth, Crime, Juvenile Reform, Mr. Rashid Belgrave.
Keep it short as a secret, the people need it, reveal it. future can't defeat we. If we get to your life and meaning, emotion I run wild and reeling. Right now my journey, I'm a feeling following. Come and know brighter days appear when it's time clear.
Got the tune selector. Good night, members of the Democratic Labour Party, the executive, my colleagues and comrades here tonight to speak, my colleagues and comrades in the crowd tonight to support us, all the party supporters, those sitting down, those in the cars, and don't forget Christchurch, the Central Branch members. I welcome you and good night. I greet you well. The theme, The theme for tonight is that things are out of control. And that is something that we wholeheartedly agree with as Barbadians. Things are going out of control in this country that only a few months after the election, we have to be on the podium holding public meetings because things are not going the way that we hope. Things are not going the way that we hope they would have gone. Now, one of the things that are clearly out of control, something that we cannot miss, a few days may pass, but some sort of action happening, is violent crime in this country is going wild and out of control. Brazen and emboldened young people, young persons committing violent acts of gun crime across this country. Only a few days may pass, but then you may get some action. Bullets here, bullets there, and bullets everywhere. And that is not the country that we deserve to live in this time and age. And what is the government doing about it? If you can remember, a few years ago, the then opposition shadow minister for Attorney General was calling the resignation then general. So, if we don't get too personal, we steer the ship clean. Clean always, dirty never. Violent crime in this country has gone through the roof. Murders and shootings especially. And we don't have to articulate it and call it capital offenses. We call it what it is. It is murder day in and day out. We are losing our young people. We are using our young men. And the attitude towards this out of control epidemic is that we have the AG. Attitude towards the issue is that the gangsters killing gangsters. That is something that we cannot accept because we still have grandma, grandpa, or great aunties living in these same communities that when shots fly past the house, they have to hit the ground and they may be catching anxiety attacks, or like the old people say, they start catching and breathing and feel that they're having a heart attack. That is not the communities that we want for our children to grow up in. That is not the communities we want. No. If we realize how things are going today, when you're driving through a community or someplace, you realize people stepping off the corner, hiding behind the pole, stepping behind the wall. They may not be in any beef, but the mindset of the country right now is that I ain't taking the chances. I don't care if it's a Toyota or Nissan, I get out the way. If you drive behind somebody too close, they like it to run off the road. That is not how average people are supposed to be living nowadays. And the ripple effect that is going through the country is damaging and is having a huge economic cost. It is affecting tourism, and like my comrade Paul Gibson said, it is affecting the QEH, putting the accident and emergency under a lot of pressure. When you want the ambulance, probably going for 1 or 2 shooting victims. And when they say shooting victims, persons being murdered, but you have to look at the collateral damage. On the school dot the other day, 2 girls were hit. On the issue, they had a video circulating of a young man who was, you know. But the troubling thing in the video was that the man ran back for the female. Nobody on touch. It's a target. And that is the and the government seems to be silent on it. And it and speak about it. We as average Barbadians, this is not a political issue. This is a Barbados issue. From the heights and the terraces to the ghettos, we are not comfortable living in this country. Even in the places where these crimes are taking place. The community commerce in the area, and I hope you understand when they say community commerce, nothing is selling. When you keep a karaoke, no one is coming. When you want to sell some drinks, no one is coming, and liming the clientele is dwindling. So the gun crime is not only hurting families, it is hurting the community as well. Psychological effects. Persons afraid to party. When was the last time you went to a decent karaoke before you telling yourself, man, I won't be boat here because I don't want the boy to shoot me? They had an incident in Long Bay a few weeks ago. Shooting took place, a man ran to his vehicle for safety. You know, you run your vehicle for safety inside ICF only to be hit by a stray bullet and you end up deceased. What I'm telling you is fact, not fiction. These things are happening even if you don't like it or not, or even if you don't want to be associated with it or not. If you live in the heights and the terraces and you say, well, that don't affect me, you're dead wrong. Because it is a societal issue. Our government is shifting the blame on a small sector of society. They're saying the gangsters killing gangsters, the bad boys killing bad boys. But if that is your attitude towards the problem, then that is your limited response. Then step aside, get out the way, government, and let the people deal with the issue. Stop blocking and help. Support the police. And when I say support the police with additional resources, I don't mean to blanket these communities with a police presence, because that does not help. What you need to do is to get back to community policing, so that these police in the community and police with good interpersonal skills and social skills. You know what I mean? Not every police can be friendly because of the job. But those who can socialize with the community, they could get in there and they could try to resolve the issue before it reaches boiling point. For us to be watching videos and men warning about with high-powered rifles. It is not a secret, it is out there. Young people walking about with high-powered rifles. This is not Iraq or Vietnam. This is not a war zone. But that is how people are living in 2022. And what is the government doing? Nothing. Things out of control. We should tell Peter Ram, who like them so bad to make a song, when he start chanting in the booth, things out of control. Things that out of control. Yeah, because we need all the support to suppress gun violence in this country. We need to start looking at the youngsters as trigger-happy young men. What we need to do is look at the push factors. Why are the young people so angry? What are the push factors that will cause a young person to pick up a firearm and just go and shoot? It ain't even happening at night no more. Broad daylight. And they're not leaving any witnesses either. So what are the push factors? Just so young people will wake up one morning and start to shoot people? Or something had to happen that caused them, the reaction or the result is to cause them to enter this life. Now, are there opportunities for these young men? No. Are there jobs circulated for these young men? No. Is there a source of income for them apart from the boss in the community giving them handouts or some sort of money? No. So how we expect to quell gun violence when there's no alternatives for the young men to turn to? You know better than me. The thing about this society, we just know. We just don't say nothing. So, but we just go come and put a fancy stage in the middle of the point to talk certain things. And tell one of the things out of control when we really want to tell one of who bringing in the guns. But we want to embellish or impinge anyone's character. Even if they're not doing a good job, we don't want to get low. We always want to go high. So the thing you have to think about is, what are these push factors? How do we identify them and how do we deal with them? Case in point. let me bring it home. Let me be realistic. If you're living in certain communities, cost of living high, but shooting going on in your community, now you have to decide whether you have enough money to move out and go and pay rent, or if you have to stay in the community because things will be too hard on you if you move out. So really and truly, the only decision you can come to, or only evaluation you can make, is whether it may be cheaper to duck from bullets or cheaper to duck from the landlord. People laughing, but this is a realistic issue. I would like to move out from this community because so-and-so down the road walking about with he thing he pants and he thing he hand. I want to get from about here because when my little girlfriend comes to look for me, she don't want to see them things. But do I have $1,100 or $1,200 to pay a landlord? No. If I move on and start paying rent, but they have the same amount of disposable income to put in gas or pay a bus fare or give you a little saying. You know, your women is one all, but anyhow, these are the critical decisions we have to make in this lifetime. And we should not be making these decisions. Either duck from bullets or duck from a landlord. That should be a no-brainer. But there's not enough money circulating. People are always going to cut short. They're going from a full week to 3 days. 8 hours to 5. Pardon? Yeah, except that fella. Them is get a lot of money. But the point I am making to you is that even if you are considering moving from around this kind of behavior, moving from around this kind of gun violence, it is difficult to move from due to certain financial limitations. And that should not be in 2022. What are the alternatives? What are the suggestions? What are they doing? What are the government doing to help us to move from one situation to another? Nothing. And then years ago, they want to call for the sacking. We should be calling for the sacking for all these ministers. All 30 ministers and all 30 consultants. It cannot be. Let me give you another example. If you're going to the bank and one teller working, we know the line will be long. People will be outside in the sun. You know people going to grumble and wonder why they're taking so long. But if all the tellers working, that means the line is supposed to be moving and business is supposed to be running a little more efficient. Right? Because all the tellers full, right? So tell me how all the seats full, all the ministerial positions full, all the consultancy positions full, even though to the janitor full with the friends, and still can't get nothing work from the government. Nothing is not working. Things are too out of control. The QEH, education, crime and violence, youth. The government killed the Barbados Defense Force Sports Program. The only program in Barbados that paid you for playing sports. You go and practice in the morning, practice in the evening, 4 weeks, and you get a paycheck at the end of the month. All of us are not academic. All of us may not be into skills trading. Some of us are good at sports. And you had an already existing program, the defense program, sports program, sorry, that you could labor on and probably expand and then incorporate probably a multitude of academies across Barbados, not only in football, probably in cricket, probably in tennis, probably in draft, even dominoes. We have to use what we have to make it. I see we are being flagged Rastafari. Blessed, respect in every aspect. So we have to curtail and challenge the government on what they are doing to help this country move forward. We have to target the youth and provide them with solid opportunities. And I'm an attorney at law. And I want you to know, as one of my colleagues said to me, QC, lawyers are not, no, I quoted it. Lawyers are not soulless serpents who encourage gun violence. We do not condone it. Because what society sees is one side of the story. Society sees a young man in handcuffs in front of the paper and persons online making comments like, hang them. lost them way. And when lawyers see it from a different perspective, what we see, families under a huge burden of stress. Parents don't know how to function, where to turn left, how to turn right, how to get this money, how to get bail. We see the stressful point where persons cannot think clearly and function in the capacity where they can make intellectual decisions. You have parents calling you back saying, oh, sorry, my head turned, I don't know what to do. I do not know what to do because we see it from both sides. And it is an issue that I keep saying to you that affects the whole society. This is not a political issue. Crime is not a political issue. Crime is just an issue. And whether BLP, DLP, or whatever party in power is something that has to be dealt with and dealt with effectively. Not the commissioner of police getting with the AG saying like bad boys killing bad boys. What kind of foolishness is that? That is society we look at operating in 2023 and 2024. It cannot go on. Things out of what? Gee, hear the choir sing. Now, we must empower our youth, and it must be a multi-pronged approach to community policing and youth empowerment, and like I said, providing alternatives for these youth. But that brings me steadfastly into the issue of the government industrial school. Oh my, my. Like I said, years ago they were calling for persons to be sacked. Tell me who should be sacked now? And this is not coming from the Democratic Labour Party. Almost. That is not coming from us. There's the Women in Action Network, one of the charities and organizations fighting for these young girls at this school. There's the Operation Safe Space, also fighting for the rights and the interests of our young people at this institution. Now, things at the institution have clearly gone out of control. That is the theme for the night. Things are spinning out of control. This government has done absolutely nothing to fix the issue. And let me just put politics aside. You don't think that the government is being particularly sneaky with this issue? With the GIS issue? When you raise the issue in the paper, they're responding fast. But when it comes to GIS, they're tipping toeing. They're not being straight with us. They're not coming with the truth. An investigation was commissioned in March. It took us to September, and still the report is not published. And Barbadians demand that that report is published. Why? Because it goes to the core of the Barbadian society, how we treat our young people, how we treat our young girls. Yes, they may be wayward, but I can say all of us probably done something wayward in our youthful lives before, and we should not be punished for that. So these young girls and young men will grow up to be parents, they will grow up to be fathers, they will grow up to be mothers, they will become employed and be a part of this society. So why are we treating them like this? Allegations of sexual abuse, physical abuse, untrained staff, a laundry list of issues that didn't start now, but should have been fixed by now. A $3 million institution, to call it some secure place, secure something. We should be providing a care center for these young girls. Tell me how the legislative framework around it is Asian as well. And you may be hearing this charge about wandering. Wandering is basically being someplace where your parents tell you not to be. And why are young people facing a mandatory 3-year sentence? Under the Reformatory and Industrial Schools Act, Cap 169, Section 11 dictates that no less than 3 years and not more than 5 years. So you can spend 5 years of incarceration at 13 or 14 years old for a non-violent offense when you got men breaking houses and barely getting 6 months and 9 months. And if they come under the Penal Reform Act, they will never see the light of jail. But you put in our young people, incarcerating them for 3 to 5 years. Is that fair? That cannot be fair. Barbados, generally Barbados, in terms of juvenile reform, falls well under the international standard. There are a lot of conventions that we sign on to, like the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the Administration of Juvenile Justice, the United Nations Rules for the Protection of Juveniles Deprived of their Liberty, United Nations Guidelines for the Prevention of Juvenile Delinquency. All of these treaties we have signed on to, and we are still subpar, below, and not living up to the expectation of the international community to take care of our juveniles and our young people. There is, you could Google it now, go on your phone. If you go on the UNICEF website, there's a report about the situation on juveniles in this country. For everybody to see, a public document criticizing juvenile justice in Barbados. But anybody could go and look at. But we want a report that was conducted the other day and we cannot see it. They are not releasing the report. Tell me why. Because the findings in the report are so damning that the minister responsible would have to annex his letter of resignation to that report. That's how damning the report is. And the fine, but I can't release it because officially it has not been released to the public. But I would not release it. But I would tell you that if you had to take a peek, it's nothing pretty to see. And the report condemning Barbados juvenile system is online for everybody to see. But we can't see ours in this country. Tell me why. The outer control. Tell me why. The outer control. Clearly. Allow me to just inform you about what our young people face in this country. Right? In relation to the industrial school. Now, the legislation that governs the industrial school was created in 1926. Meaning 4 years from now, that legislation will be 100 years old. Now, it had a slew. It was modified by several amendments, but the last amendment was in 1988. Still a long time ago to update our juvenile justice. Now, you hear about wandering, which is section 14(1)(b), which is one charge. Under section 14(1)(a), allow me to read this to you. It provides that children under 16 can be brought before a magistrate if found begging or receiving alms. Alms is an old English word for begging or giving food to poor people. So basically, a child under 16 can be carried before a magistrate for begging for food. And that is in 2022, and that is so ancient and draconian the act is. And it's a long time we have been calling for juvenile reform in this country, and the time is now, and the buck stops now. And that is why we cannot argue, and we cannot defend, and we have to agree with these organizations who are calling for the sacking of the minister. Under our system, he is responsible and should hold full responsibility for the failing of our young women in this country. In conclusion, I would just ask all of you to pray for this country and hold the faith and steer the course, because things are getting and going out of control. We need juvenile justice reform, and we demand to see that report. We need to quell and address the gun violence in this country, and blanketing the streets with more police and soldiers will not help. We need to look at real solutions. Also, we need to take care of our youth. $600 and $700 a week, or bi-weekly $1,200, is nothing in this country right now. $1,000 is nothing in this country. Cost of living is too high. Before $50 would give you half tank, now $50 give you quarter tank. So out of $1,000, we put in $200, and that was only week one. Your money dead. Because the light bill is X, the water bill is X more, and plus sewage tax. We going on the road. So how do our young people function in a society where the money is dwindling and the buying power is dwindling and disposable income is non-existent? We must get things under control, and that is why we are here to bring the word to you and bring you this information and show you how dedicated we are in making this country a better country. And thank you, and good night.
Believe me, them want you keep it truth as a secret. The people need it, reveal it. Yeah, we are the future, can't defeat we. If we get to your life and meaning, emotion run wild and really.
Thank you, Comrade Rashid Belgrave, a young man that's passionate about the advancement of our youth in this Barbados. A very well executed presentation. I next want to introduce to you the chair of our working group on tourism, another one of my brethren. The next representative from St. Michael Central, I'd like to welcome Mr. Corey Cox.
Seems like they have been wasted, eh? Just goes on to show. Till I'm laid to rest, yes, always be depressed. There's no life in the West. I know the East is the best. All the propaganda that spread, tongues will have to confess. Oh, I'm in bondage, living is a mess, and I've got to rise up, alleviate the stress. No longer will I expose my weakness. Ego's knowledge begins with
Davis, bust some tune, Davis, come, Davis.
Stumbleness, work 7 to 7, yet me still penniless. For the food up on me table, master, God bless. All of it the needy and shelterless. Ethiopia await all prince and princess. Till I'm laid to rest, yes, always be depressed. There's no life in the
Yes. I can't deal with them because things out of control, people. Things out of control, man. I hear my man Buju working 7 to 7 and he's still penniless. It isn't peculiar to Jamaica, ladies and gentlemen. We are feeling it right here in Barbados also. Before I really get into the nuts and bolts of my presentation tonight, I want to pay homage and salute the passing of a few members of our great party over the last few weeks. And more specifically, I want to pay my respects to the late Dr. Dennis Lowe. It breaks my heart that I can't look to the side tonight or somewhere down here and see Dr. Dennis. That is the honest to God truth. Dennis was a real down-to-earth person, never pompous, never cocky, always approachable. And if Dennis could empower every single man in Christchurch East, trust me, he would have. And I enjoyed going to his platforms as a junior and speaking on his behalf. And if there's one thing that it will take for me, it is a fight for the welfare of everybody in this country. Because that is the kind of representation that we need, ladies and gentlemen. They gave us all kind of promises, but they failed to deliver all of them one by one. But tonight I can spend some time on tourism. Because we got a person leading the tourism industry, and I refer to that person as a square peg in a round hole. He even went to the upper house, to the upper chambers in the house the other day and told all kind of nonsense. Made former Minister of Tourism, Richard Seeley, get up from wherever he was and come out and put wrong things right. And she can even come back and say, bah. But you see, tourism is extremely vital to this country, ladies and gentlemen. It is extremely vital. You would be hard-pressed to find an industry that contributes as much as tourism to our nation's GDP. provides jobs both directly and indirectly. And over the last 10 to 15 years before the COVID pandemic, we would have enjoyed something looking like 1 million passengers, coming to these shores. Contributions of about 1 billion on average. But it's no secret, we have been decimated over the last 2.5 years. And we are not trying our best to recover. But the measures that I'm seeing being announced, it makes no sense to me. And it really makes me question the ability of these square pegs and round holes to critically think and assess the situation before us and ascertain how will we drive tourism forward. I hear people jumping and prancing about how good the crop over was. Crop over was a success. But how do we measure success, ladies and gentlemen? Because that is a fleeting word. I guess it's pretty relative. A lot of bands ain't come out. I ain't see BH, I ain't see Paul before, I ain't see Koza, I ain't see Contact. A lot of people ain't jump. The few who jumping in front of trees and bush and rocks. What are you catch them going down Station Hill and dancing and whining and shouting, my friends, when they see them at the side? But this whole concept of jumping on a highway, people crop over is nothing without spectatorship. You have to have spectator involvement. You know how many people in St. Michael Central was come up on crop over there and sell water, sell drinks, even sell parking spots? Everything is getting sold on. You can't even contain vendors on the highway. And before the masqueraders can get by the second roundabout, they're walking as they're tired, sun hot. And then you're telling me crop over was a success. One of the band leaders even lamented the fact that he could not get his materials from down in the region, so he had to call off his participation. These people talk pretty, but when it comes to substance and evidence, they are found to be lacking. We have to have our people in crop over, ladies and gentlemen. Only last week, I heard some regional aviation, some regional travel experts calling for the need to address the high ticket fares to travel throughout the region. And I support that call tonight. Because traveling throughout the region is too expensive. It suppresses visitor arrival numbers. How you can grow your tourism numbers if people can't even afford the tickets? And these square pegs and round holes can run and come and defend the high taxes that driving the cost of these tickets up in the air. I refer to it as killing the goose that's trying to lay the golden egg. How are you going to have tax values 50 and 60%? Taking the ability to purchase tickets out of the reach of the ordinary man. It will make more sense to reduce the taxes on the tickets, making the tickets more affordable and appealing to our brothers and sisters to move throughout the region. We have CPL going on. You don't think a lot of us would love to jump on a plane and go and watch a day or two, a CPL, especially with Barbados playing second? We don't think they lost the game yet. We can't even get a Barbados army. And in this summertime, regional tourism is extremely important. They took the decision to pull out of Liat. You have cultural practitioners trying to move about throughout the region for crop over and what's not, and can't even get about here properly. My man, Skinny Fabulous, actually admitted that he was sorry that Leah wasn't around anymore. Because travel throughout the region is important to social, economic integration. We have a lot of brothers and sisters and friends who live in Guyana, St. Vincent, Trinidad. A lot of my friends that I'm in campus with, I would love to see. And all they can come and do is defend these high prices. Imagine they told us when they were in opposition that you cannot tax yourself out of a recession, you know. And these people are experts in doing one or two things or both. Either taxing or borrowing. Nothing else. We can even see a cruise ship in here for the summer. No, don't get, no, listen, let me cast our minds back to only a few months ago to a year. When all these cruise ships were docked all over Carlisle Bay and down by the Flour Mill. Mashing up all the coral reefs. Don't forget. Some passengers on these ships, COVID positive. Other countries are denying these cruise lines to dock their ships. But we took them. And they said we are open for business and we are going to take them because when COVID is gone, they will come and they will do business with us. But know that this is the summer and we need business where they are. People going on back in the European waters. No taxi men jumping all over trying to get a job and can't get none. They have no real plan thought out for this industry. And what concerns me is the amount of people who are employed by this industry. The amount of school children who are sent to school because the mothers and or fathers are employed in this industry. And we have to build the tourism industry to be as resilient as possible with well thought out ideas. Not square pegs and round holes just coming to defend anything for defending its sake. You remember only a year ago she was defending the slogan. Wait, what's again? Big Island, what? Big Island, Small Barbados, or Small Island, Big Barbados, some nonsense. $750,000 in taxpayers' money for somebody else's slogan. It's true, sister. Where is the creativity? And we spending real money, you know. Remember we had beautiful tourism slogans before? Tourism is our business, let's play our part. Barbados, just beyond our imagination. Any of you know what is the slogan right now? Anybody can tell me what's the slogan? You can imagine that? So our own people who are our stakeholders at the end of the day, our ambassadors don't even know what our tourism slogan is right now. Tell me where we really going, ladies and gentlemen. You understand what we say tonight? Things but we are out of control. Things out of control. Only last week I saw they were talking about, listen, I come to really critically examine these initiatives in this tourism industry, you know. I go against Jackie. They call them initiatives. The question might be the quality of them. But they took some taxis on some tours. They wanted to expand the visitor sites that you can take tourists to. They want to expand the places that people can see. Because Barbados is more than sun, sea, and sand. And that is true. It really is. So they took some of the taxi drivers down to the old train tracks in St. Andrew. They took them to Newton Burial Ground. They took them to Rock Hall Freedom Village and a couple others. That is their idea about helping and establishing heritage tourism in Barbados. want to know in my own constituency right now, we got a massive building, rich in history, sitting down idling by every day, losing value in the dew, the sun, the rain, and nobody doing anything with it. And you want to talk about pushing heritage tourism? What is the government's plan for Glengarry prisons, ladies and gentlemen? We are basically the only island in the Caribbean that has a prison that we can actually use as a tourist attraction. Can somebody bring me some water, please? Nicholas, bring me some water, please, buddy. That is one of the, listen, one thing about the Caribbean islands, yeah? There's not much to differentiate us, you know. And that's why we shouldn't fight up with each other. Because at the end of the day, we are all one. But how do we decide why a visitor should come to Barbados as opposed to going to St. Lucia or St. Vincent or Antigua? But the longer we let Glengarry prison sit down idle, the more money it will cost us to refurbish it. But I agree. Because the lock's still working. $25 million for houses, emergency houses, and we only see Tings Outta for $25 million. So I agree. But on a serious note, Glengarry prison is rich in history. Having been established sometime in the 1800s or something like that. You remember when they opened it for Barbados, how many of us flocked? I say us, because I went too. I was fascinated. I wanted to see where Winston Hall jumped. That's the truth. He flew. Or we get help. I know one man could get out of prison so many times. But these are opportunities for us to make money. These are potential economic earners. But we are just satisfied to continue to tax our citizens over and over and over again. What are our plans for economic growth? What are our substantial plans to diversify our tourism industry? We're even out there talking right now about community tourism. And this kind of harpers back to what my comrade and my brethren Rashid said. Because before you can even think about community tourism, ladies and gentlemen, you got to talk about community policing. Community tourism is just that. Tourists visiting communities, interacting with the locals, purchasing arts, maybe buying some food, going in these shops and having a drink. But with the amount of looting and shooting that's going on in this country, I mean, let me think, people. Because they're going on the radio and the TV and just talking every day, but talking a bunch of ish. Rubbish. We can really tell ourselves that we want to launch community tourism today in Barbados with crime under control. We know here people say at the press conference that we shouldn't even be concerned because the criminals not after us. They after each other. Why do they know that the criminals have their own little section in Barbados to live with themselves? If we as residents can't be safe and we concerned for our own safety, how are we going to bring tourists out there? We go clean your own house before you can invite guests. But every time they go on shooting, you can just hear a guy smiley saying, oh, it was a spike. Another shooting, it was a spike. Another shooting, nothing to be concerned about. It was a spike. But Barbados, a spike plus a spike plus a spike equals to a trend. It can't be a spike again. And government has to take the lead in addressing the crime situation in this country. The BSTA came out the other day. I even said this and I supported it. government has to get a handle on the crime because it can have potential deleterious effects on tourism. But they said the government can't do it all. People, the boys say go do all, they go take the lead. Anytime a government can throw their hands in the air with no relevant ideas, that is the first day of their state of irrelevancy. What are we supposed to do? We cannot get away from the external shocks. You have the pound on the decline. The UK is a vital market for us. You have North America with the federal, no one announcing the federal bank, no one announcing the increase in interest rates, which will reduce people's spending power. People don't have to come to Barbados, ladies and gentlemen. I remember when we kicked up a fuss when the UK wanted to increase the airline passenger duty because we saw the negative impact that it could have on tourism. Because the further that visitors travel, the more tax they paid. It is simply too expensive to be a tourist in Barbados. Goodness gracious, it's just too expensive to be living in Barbados, period. We need relief because things out of control. These people coming, the raise tax on the room rates, the Airbnb. Listen, these people tax them at everything. Let us even look at, for example, the way we market, the amount of money we allocate to marketing directly in tourism. When some of that same money can be spent to back some of our athletes. Like the girl Sade or John O. Jones. There is $1 trillion tourism benefits to be derived from having successful athletes on the international stage. You can't pay for that exposure. And we don't seem to understand that. You know how much exposure Usain Bolt gave Jamaica? We can't just continue to go down the traditional ways of just marketing sun, sea, and sun, sun, sea, and sun, and then come in with these flimsy, whimsical ideas to push our tourism forward. At this point, we are one of the worst performing sectors in the region as far as tourism is concerned. This government does not have ideas. None. No ideas to boost tourism. None to boost economic growth. None to boost jobs. President Ronnie coming here shortly. And he will destroy them on some of these things too. Because a lot of these things that are plaguing us is a simple inability to provide jobs for people in this country. People, we need serious. We need to take a serious look at the state of our #1 earner in this country. We need someone who understands tourism, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody who knows tourism. When I look at that track record or lack thereof, it is waste time. Nothing to show for it. And if the tourism industry can't perform, and we got these loans to pay back, where the money can come from? All if we can finish get tax skills some more. I can't afford to get taxed no more. And that's why we say to you all tonight, things out of control about here. I want to wrap up my speech tonight. I ain't telling you nonsense about staying the course, because you can tell me. We got to get serious with these people out here. Serious. This government continuing to walk over us and laugh while they're doing it. Because they seem to believe that Barbadians enough fuss up people. But we got to stand up for what we believe in. We have to stand up for it. I even disturbed with that 25 million that we spent on houses. But then we come here to speak about tonight, so I ain't delving into it. But every day you see her, we can got some more houses by next month. But we still can't see these houses. But taxpayers' money going out, I know. But we have to continue to put the pressure on that administration because we got to see the back of them. If you can't bring ideas to solve the amount of things that are under control, you got to go. I want to thank all of you for listening to me and for coming out tonight. God bless you.
My cosmos I speak unification on the feet. What a day when we walking down Redemption Street. Man up on head, Bible in a hand, one and all. Make we try the promised land. Would you go down the Congo, stop in a Shashamane land? The city of Ferraris where Selassie come from. In Addis Ababa, then Botswana. Left Kenya, I end up in a Ghana. Oh, what a beauty, my eyesight behold. Holy Ethiopia, protect me from the cold.
Thank you, Comrade Corey, for a good presentation tonight on tourism. And I say again to the government that it's okay to reach out and reach across for any ideas and solutions of how we can get this tourism industry going. We have the players over here that can assist with that. Tonight I have the privilege to introduce to you tonight our next speaker, the President of the Democratic Labour Party, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood.
I feel like move any mountain, I trample any building like Hulk. Man better than monster, dismantle any structure, boy. Trample them, trample them, trample them, trample them. Rip up my shot and mass up my jeans and step on my problems, then what we gonna do? Trample them, trample them, trample them. Kick out my problems, kick out my problems. Trials and testings just come before blessings, but we have to be patient, yeah. Weeping and mourning in the night, but joy in the morning. But we just have to endure.
Good night, Barbados. Greetings to the Democratic Labour Party family, Barbadians at home, online, abroad. I want to start, and this may seem slightly odd to start a speech by saying thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for watching online in your hundreds. I want to thank you for journeying with this party so far, and I want to thank you for supporting all of these young speakers that you saw here tonight. And I want to thank you for coming out and giving this team a chance. I want to thank Melissa. I want to thank Paul, Rashid, Corey, Nicholas for dissecting the issues facing Barbados and putting them squarely to the people of this country. I want to thank them for offering solutions that are tangible, that are credible, that are thought through, and offering a way forward for each of their prospective ministries and areas. It takes real courage as a young person to offer yourself for public service in this country or any country. These young men and this young woman deserve our prayers and for having the credit, for having the courage of their convictions to stand here before you to answer a call in this very difficult time in the history of our country. It is a hard time for many families in Barbados. It is a hard time for all of us here. And I want to let the people of Barbados know that the Democratic Labour Party is committed to a new politics, a different type of politics. And under the Democratic Labour Party that I have the honor and the privilege to lead, there is room for everyone under the big tent. Do not let your hearts be troubled, for there is room for everyone in this house. Once again, we will engage with the people of Barbados. We will champion the causes of the people again. We will not let you walk alone. We have heard your concerns. We have spoken to your concerns. We will give voice to the voiceless. We will give power to the powerless. And we will give hope to the hopeless. We will turn hurt to hope. That is the purpose of this great party. And I want you to recall that the purpose of this party was to give life and to give reality to the Barbadian dream. The dream that we could get a good education, you find a decent job, you married, you built your families, you retired in peace and dignity. You celebrated your family, you participated fully in your society without fear. Many of you here, many of you watching, all of you, you've worked hard, you've played by the rules, you've paid your taxes. However, I know you feel let down by this government. You have been left to walk alone. In a short time, this government has received overwhelming majorities, but everything in Barbados feels out of control. Every project is announced, re-announced, announced, re-announced, but nothing gets off the ground. All the fantasy projects, the 12-story steel building, the House of Pillars, the condominiums, the Royal Mail building, the islands off Barbados, Fort Willoughby, all fantasy projects. And how can we forget the biggest fantasy of all, Hayat? Because, and I want you to hear me clearly on this, in what universe, fic, or faction can a government take away the land of a private citizen and give it to another to develop? And most worrying, this government looks like it's about to do it again in St. Lawrence Gap and Dover. I want to ask the government of Barbados to tell the constituents in Christchurch South what is going on with the notice of compulsory land acquisition. From the current Member of Parliament's letter, he seems to be in the dark as much as the residents in that area. For a government that loves to talk, why are they not talking to the residents of Christchurch? You know, this has an all too familiar feeling of Emerton. Add to that, what is happening to the residents in Bayland? Or what's happening to the government complex in Whole Town? Who are the developers? Whose interests do they serve? I want to submit to you that no new project in Barbados should start unless they serve and unless those projects serve the interests of all Barbadians. A few cannot get rich at the expense of the rest of us. People of Dover and St. Lawrence, we are coming to you. We shall not let you walk alone, because whatever is going on there, you have to be the winners of this. And any project in Barbados should be put to a test. Does it make the local landowners part of the project? Do they get to benefit financially, whether in shares or part of the project? Does it contribute to the socio-economic development of Barbados? In simple terms, does this project or any project help pay for social services such as education and health? Does it contribute to the infrastructure of Barbados? So projects in areas should contribute to building community centers, parks, schools, roads should be upgraded, and not a single cent should come from the government purse. Does the project provide economic empowerment of Barbadians? This is not simply about providing a job here or there, but what type of jobs? How do these jobs pay? Barbadians must have opportunities to create and grow existing businesses and not only simply gain employment. And importantly, Do the projects provide for wealth creation? In that, you as Barbadians will be able to use and open businesses on the basis of these projects. That is how you empower people. That is how you provide real chances for them. That is how you provide opportunities. That is how you build generational wealth. You want entrepreneurs? Make the economy better. Make big projects submit to these sort of tests so that people can have a share in the pie of Barbados and not just crumbs off the table. If the economy is doing well, entrepreneurs will grow. For all the bluster of this government, the simple fact, this government is not working. Barbados finds itself in a very, 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 very strange place. On paper, this is supposed to be a talented government. We have 24-hour constant communication, hyper-communication from the government, yet everything feels out of control. Look, there are so many things to talk about tonight. I don't know, in some ways, where to start. Failing tourism product, failing schools, no big project started, no economic growth, unemployment, consultants by the bucket loads, roads being fixed that don't need fixing, while roads in areas that should be fixed aren't fixed. The abuse of the damning report from the girls' industrial school and nothing to address it. The QH and accident emergency flooding after millions and millions of dollars was spent, but the government comes and tells us it's just a little snag work. That's all it needs, a little snag work. ID card project, do we still know how much it costs? Because the minister effectively told us it's none of your business how much it is costing. It's none of our business that you are spending taxpayers' money and failing to explain to us how much it costs. You go to the supermarket, a basket of goods were to be provided to you by the conglomerates, by the supermarkets. But the agreement between the private sector and the government does not seem to be worth the paper it's written on. And then you get the Minister of Elder Affairs has the gumption to announce that retailers did not stick to their non-binding agreement. Like, we could have told you that. And then the minister goes on to talk about how businesses need to cut down on their profits. Small businesses in this country are barely surviving already. What cutting down you talking about? While the minister sits idly in a bloated cabinet, earning thousands and thousands of dollars a month. But for small businesses who are seeing little to no profits, the Minister of Elder Affairs is demanding that they cut down. Cut down what? What profits do these small businesses struggling in Barbados make at the moment? The government needs to cut down the incompetent cabinet. At its core, this government is suffering from a problem of competency. I don't know how else to put it. The government is incompetent. They seem unable to do the simplest, the smallest of projects, the smallest of things. Thousands of you work hard. You trusted government bonds. However, you saw your retirement savings lost. Credit union lost $33 million. The NIS scheme lost $1.2 billion to restructuring. And we have a government pretending that the restructuring and the loss of the national insurance scheme was not a big deal. I had a lady come into my office at George Street to tell me her situation. That restructuring that the government brags about hurt Barbadians. This lady was about to retire. She was going to move back to Barbados. She had grown up here. She'd gone overseas. She'd made some money. She'd invested in bonds because she believed in Barbados. She wanted to see Barbados succeed. And when the restructuring happened, she lost, effectively, all her pension. Now she has to go back to work and cannot retire to Barbados as she wants Dream to do. That is real life. This government treats these things as if they're not people, that they're just numbers. But these are the people and the stories of Barbadians who have been affected by this restructuring, who have lost out because of this. This lady lost all her retirement savings in bonds. And I think the government has to take responsibility for that loss and for the loss to the National Insurance Scheme, which was the lifeline of many, many Barbadians. And now their children and their grandchildren will not enjoy the benefits that they have enjoyed. Bajans cannot live and retire in dignity. Now, the National Insurance Scheme, the government says in one breath, it is not in crisis. In another, they say they want solutions from us. Stop trying to play it down and recognize the National Insurance Scheme is in crisis. It is in crisis to all the Barbadians who have heard that their pensions are in peril. It is in crisis to parents who want to know what the future holds for their children. It is in crisis for my generation who were told that the NIS is essentially a way to live out the Barbadian dream. The Prime Minister and the government cannot foist their responsibility on the people of Barbados. What is the role of the government's well-paid financial consultants in all of this? These consultants should be proposing the ideas. Where are the ideas? What are the taxpayers being asked to shoulder the responsibility for the problems of the National Insurance Scheme? Consulting is one thing, responsibility is another thing. The Prime Minister and the government, they need to grow up and take responsibility for their actions and their consequences to recognize that the National Insurance Scheme is where it is because of their debt restructuring. You, as the government, you have the whole cake. You have been given it all twice. We know you know what you're going to do with the National Insurance Scheme. Tell us and stop pretending for this farce of consultation and exercise called town halls. But I got a little story to tell you. So, understand my surprise when the government sent a letter to me dated September the 6th, unilaterally appointing the president of the Democratic Labour Party as a member of an advisory committee for the National Insurance Scheme. Without so much of a courtesy call, nobody didn't pick up the phone and invite, nobody said, well, we would like you to sit on this committee. And I want to remind the government of Barbados, I want to remind the Prime Minister of Barbados, I do not work for you. I work for the people of Barbados through the Democratic Labour Party. And the people of this country will be respected. You will not send me no letter telling me I am appointed to any committee. No details of the purpose of the committee, no meeting times, who else on the committee, nothing. And you want to add me to a committee and I'm supposed to jump up and say yes. And let me ask this other question. For all the good in the world, how many more committees does this government actually need to run the government? Anybody remember the Economic Council or the Economic Committee? The Prime Minister and this government may think that they can treat people however and whichever way they want. But not about here. Someone has to say no, and someone has to draw the line. And if that someone is me, so be it. The Democratic Labour Party is about new politics, it is about proper engagement, it is about consultation. I am serious about new politics, it is about good faith, and it is about the people of Barbados. And I want to reiterate the Democratic Labour Party's commitment to contributing ideas for the betterment of the National Insurance Scheme in a meaningful national dialogue. But this government seems to be a fair weather government. When it is bad news, the government declares consult. When it is good news or that attracts the global media, the government stands alone in the spotlight. We know the pattern. But this party will always, always, always fight for and represent the interests of Barbadians. You know, it's common knowledge that a lot of young people are leaving Barbados, qualified young people, qualified Barbadians, because they're frustrated, they're anxious that their dreams cannot be fulfilled in Barbados. They're worried that this country is not the place which they will call home for the future. They treat Barbados as if it is a staging post for something else better. And you know what? We cannot be angry with them. We cannot be upset with them. Because when you look around at the current leadership of Barbados, it does not appear or behave as if it wants to be in Barbados. The government, the Prime Minister in particular, spends more time outside of this country than managing the affairs of the people of Barbados. And if the leadership of this country is signaling that Barbados is not good enough for them, what do we expect everyone else to do? But I am telling you that Barbados is good enough for the Democratic Labour Party. Barbados is good enough for me. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to raise my family. This is where I want to live out my dream. This is where I want to make a better country so that you can live out your dreams and you do not have to leave here. Barbados should never be a staging post. This is not a place you pass through on to way somewhere better. This is where better should be made. And that is the role of a government, to create that environment so you can be better, so you can make better for your families. And I understand why they leave. You can't get a job, can't get a house, there are no opportunities here. And all the opportunities require some kind of relationship with some politician or an associate of the politician who wants something for something. That is not the Barbados that we all know. That is not the Barbados that we love. That is not the Barbados that we want to create. That is not the place that we want to live in. And at the core of this, we have a government unable to do anything. Hands in the air about crime, hands in the air about tourism, hands in the air about education. Everything is failing, and there are no solutions, no robust approach to anything. I want you, and I'm going to ask a lot of you tonight, and I want you to dedicate yourself to the great cause of uplifting our people. I want you to dedicate yourself to the cause that no one in Barbados should be left behind. I want to say to this country that we can win. That is how we honor the founders of this country, by making Barbados a better place. Democracy is not about giving someone the vote in exchange for something. And I fear that's what our politics is becoming. That has to change. Democracy requires you to actively participate and be empowered to be an active person in your society. Today, we continue the long march forward as the Democratic Labour Party to serve the people of Barbados. The Democratic Labour Party is moving in a new direction. The past is the past. And I want to say to you, politics alone does not make a country, especially when it is marred by family and friends and highly paid consultants. Leadership is what makes a country. This party, brothers and sisters and comrades and friends, we have to remember that we are not always right, but we are always worthy. Today, tonight, every day after this, I want you to recall and remember that we can win again. And I want you to dig deep to recognize that we must win again. And we win again not for ourselves, but for the people of this country. Because it is about them. It is not about us. It will never be about us. It must always be about them. And we must be called to service. We must be called to respond to their needs and their wants and their cries and articulate it as we've done tonight. We must give voice to their fears. We must give voice to their hopes. And we must turn hurt to hope. This party must represent a beacon for Barbadians. We must light that fire to understand that the Democratic Labour Party historically has always had a place in the heart of Barbadians, and we can win that space again. This great party is a way to deliver on the Barbadian dream. That is why we must embrace the promise of a new politics. A new politics for a better Barbados. A new politics which will not allow the differences of opinion to blind us from the reality that we are one people. This politics must be people-focused. It must be participatory. It must be about inclusion and not exclusion. Fundamentally, a Democratic Labour Party must be committed to empowering all Barbadians. That empowerment must run through every single thing, every policy, every articulation, every action, everything that we do. Through our being, through our fight, everything must be about making the lives of Barbadians better. We must be committed to that. Our people do not lack skills. They lack opportunities. And this is what will separate a progressive Democratic Labour Party from the other party. Because the Democratic Labour Party wants to empower you. That is why I joined the Democratic Labour Party. We aren't here to tell you to drive less. We aren't here to tell you to eat rice without gravy. We aren't here to demand that you pay more but get less. I leave that to those who seem to be satisfied somehow that you are struggling. Stay the course, they tell you. Stay what course? A course of struggle? The Democratic Labour Party says no, no, no. And the people of Barbados say no to a course of struggle. We Barbadians, all of us, want to live comfortably. We want to live with real dignity. We want to have meaningful opportunities and choices in our lives. Barbadians must be able to thrive again, not just survive. Everybody you meet, you ask them how you're doing, I just surviving. Barbadians must be able to thrive again. No Barbadian in 2022 should have to choose between breakfast or dinner. No Barbadian should have to say, if I put gas in my car today, I can't pay my bills tomorrow. We should be able to do more than struggle through the basics of life. There are people out there who have to make the choice between paying the water bill and the electricity bill. Because if you're working for $300 or $400 a week and your light bill is about $150, your water bill is another $75 or $100, what you got left over? You cannot eat. These are realities that Barbadians are facing. You know, people ask, why did we hold this meeting tonight? Because I want Barbadians to understand the struggle that they're all facing. There's a tendency to divide us, lower class, middle class, upper class, but we're all struggling. It doesn't matter what class we are at this moment, we're all hurting. And we all need to embrace and understand we're all hurting. Stop the division. Somebody might not be able to pay the light bill, but somebody else can't pay the mortgage. Somebody might not be able to buy food, but somebody else can't put gas in their car. Or they can't buy the school uniforms, or they can't buy the books. These are the realities of Barbadians today. And no one seems to care. But this party cares about you. This party has always cared about you. You know, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see the country in the state and the space that it is in today. It breaks my heart to see kids who cannot eat, families who are struggling, mothers who cry themselves to sleep, fathers demoted, demoralized because they cannot be the men to provide and feed their sons and their daughters. This is the Barbados that we face today. And I want us to all understand that none of us here, these folks who came up on this stage, we do this because we actually feel committed to try to make this better. Because we see these things daily as we canvass, as we go around, as we listen to you, as we talk to you, as we give you hugs, we try to embrace you. I wish I could fix every single problem for every single one of you tonight. And the dream that you want, the Barbadian dream that you want to live out, you want to be able to take your family to that Sunday lunch. You want to be able to go on that excursion. You want to take that trip to New York or London to visit your sister or your brother. You want to be able to go out and enjoy the cultural activities of this country like anybody else. You want to build that fund for a rainy day. You want to start that business that you told your family about. We just want you to be able to breathe, relax, and live again. Enough with the struggle. I am sick and tired of the crumbs being thrown off the table at us. I am sick of tired that we do not have a say or a share in this country. I am sick and tired that we are pushed aside. I am sick and tired that we just have to take what we get, and we do not have to take it. I want you to understand that this country belongs to you. This is your country. This is not the Barbados Labour Party's country. This country does not function without all of you, in all of your respective ways. Where is your current quality of life? Where is the dignity in how we should be living as a Barbadian people? Where is it? The next generation of Barbadians should never have to say that their lives are worse off than their parents. But on our current trajectory, the way this government is going, in some ways, that may be the story that we will have to tell, that our lives were worse off than what our parents had or what our grandparents had. And that is not the Barbados that we want. I want to say to the Democratic Labour Party, there are lots of messages here tonight. We cannot let the people of Barbados down. We will not win an election hoping that the other party falls flat or fails. We will win because we care. We are here to offer hope. We are here to offer a new vision for Barbados. Barbadians want this party to do better. The detractors, they will detract. They will try to divide us, old guard, new guard, all sorts of guard. They're going to try to divide the country, yellows and reds, working class Barbadians, this Barbadian, poor Barbadians, you got a good job Barbadian, you live in a Heights and Terrace Barbadian, you live in a countryside, all kind of Barbadians. They try to divide us. But I want you to send the message that we will not be divided. This party will win, this country will win when we are all together. And I want you to know, and I want you to understand that the suffering and the hurt, the struggle that we are all experiencing, it's not choosing one of us, you know. A bad economy don't pick out and say, you know what, Shirla, I ain't touching you. James, you good over there. We are all going to suffer. Ain't picking out nobody. You know, it's that saying when the rainfall is falling on every single rooftop. That is where we are now. I am not daunted by the challenge that we will face in the future. And we will face challenges. It's not going to be easy. The task ahead to govern this country, to stabilize this country, will be a difficult one. The hole that we've been dug will be a hard one to get us out of. I'm not going to pretend, I'm not going to lie to you. This is not fantasy politics that, you know, if we had to win tomorrow, it's all going to be better. That's not the truth. But I want you to understand that we are committed to making it better. I want you to understand that better days are ahead of us. And this party is part of that. We must take it to the next level. Real empowerment. Not handouts, hand-ups. This country has to become one Barbados. Every person having a room in the house, every person having a seat at the table, every person being able to break bread together. If we are to have a chance at any real future, any real republic, any existence for the next 50 years, if we want Barbados to exist for our children and our grandchildren, we have to give our people a fair share. Gone must be the days when they sit and wait on a politician for something. We have to create this new politics. And I'm going to say something, because if you're being honest, and that's my approach, the government is not being upfront with Barbadians regarding the IMF. The current debt of this country is $13.6 billion, which includes $4.5 billion of foreign debt. I want you to understand that. $13.6 billion for a country of 300,000 people. Do the math. That is the current hole that we're in. And you know, it's interesting because in 2017, and so you just go and look at the facts. In 2017, basically, the money set aside to pay down debt was in the area of $598 billion. In 2022, it is only $30 billion. You draw your own conclusions. And what I find interesting about the whole discussion that the Prime Minister and the government is trying to put forward is the contention that the economy is doing well. If the economy is doing so well, then why are we going into another IMF program? And then, on one hand, you hear talk about 10% growth. 10% from where? The economy is unlikely, and this is factual, this is truthful. Don't let nobody spend for you. The economy is unlikely to grow by 10%. And even if it did grow by 10%, that just takes us back to pre-COVID. If we want any growth, the economy has to grow at least by 14%. And given the state of the British pound, the tourist season will probably not be as good as we want. The fact that no projects have started, our credit rating is still at junk status, so there's nothing to brag about. The government, for the first time in history, defaulted, claiming the restructuring was a magical rescue plan. And it's, be warned, it turned out not to be so magical. Because the NIS suffered. We still have junk bond status, and the government wonders, why is no Barbadian rushing to buy government paper? Would you trust the government? I would not buy no government bonds either. To do what? For them to extend them? You're going to lose your money again? Why would you trust this government to buy government bonds after what they did last time? This government does not have an economic record or a leg to stand on after that restructuring. The kind of money that our pensioners lost, the kind of investments that ordinary Barbadians looking forward to their retirement lost, it is wrong, morally bankrupt, and it is wrong. And even, I hear you. I know. And even if it was okay for the government to borrow from the IMF, where is the exit strategy? We know there are enough examples in the Caribbean and the world to tell us if you do not have an exit strategy, you will end up in an IMF program year after year after year. 20 years later, you are still in an IMF program. Your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren will be repaying this debt and will be under the IMF programs. We are going to have to clean up this Prime Minister and this government's mess of borrowing, tax, and spend. That's all the government is do, tax and spending money, and you cannot figure out where is it going. The schoolrooms in the better because one just blow off. The roads in the better. What is the money actually doing? I am being so serious. The QEH in the better. How have you borrowed all of this money and there is nothing tangible to show Barbadians where the investments have gone? The garbage cans? And one of the other things that we've seen in this government, we have seen a departure from that Barbadian policy, which is to borrow domestically and roll over the debt if necessary. Our national debt at the moment is out of control. This government under this Prime Minister has racked up a startling and overwhelming 40% of all external foreign debt in the last 4 years. Literally, this Prime Minister has borrowed more external debt than all the other recent Prime Ministers combined. You could believe that? Our external debt is probably at its worst in our recent memory. It is growing quickly and with no checks on it and what the money is being used for. We are back to that issue of competence. They just can't feel the difference. Worse yet, as I said, we gotta pay this back. And you know what will be most disheartening? And I say this with all honesty, I say this with love in my heart because that's the only kind of thing I speak from. Brother Alastra, when the current Prime Minister and the current leadership of the government shuffles off to their cozy jobs somewhere else, and this is the part that breaks my heart, we are going to be left holding the bag. The reality is, all that debt, that $13.6 billion, That's your debt. That's my debt. That's my son's debt. That's your son and your daughter's debt. That's your grandchildren's debt. Your great-grandchildren. And it's nice that some of us who run this country at the moment can take a very cavalier approach to spending as if it's somebody else's money. But for most of us managing our own households, we know that's not how you manage that. We don't have that luxury. And we have to solve the debt crisis by growth. The only way out of this is to grow the economy. Not more borrowing because we're hearing, it at 1%. That's all the government keep telling you. Every time you complain about borrowing, it's cheap, it at 1%. It doesn't matter if at 1% or 0.5%, somebody got to pay it back. That is us. We are those somebodies. And what we realize is that this government has put its political survival ahead of the country. And if it wasn't clear then, it should be clear now why an early election was called. It wasn't some smart strategy. People like to think people are these grand strategists and these strategic minds. They're not smart about it because you know what? Who left holding the bag now? Us. What is smart about that? That Barbados in debt? So you call the election to avoid telling us the actual truth about where we are and what needs to be done? And we're supposed to clap and go, smart elections. They're not smart. They're nothing clever. It's wrong. It's deceitful. It's dishonest. You talk to your people. You take them your confidence. You explain where they are, and you explain the actual strategies. But you know what that would depend on? That is if you had actual strategies. That is if you had vision and if you had actual ideas. Because where is this country now? And the thing that worries me is that the lights might soon get turned off. That's just the reality, I talk in facts. With Barbadians drowned in debt, bills, financial despair, can't buy food, gas, everything is spiraling out. Everything out of control. This is how we all feel. Let's be real. We feel at this moment that the country is on a downward spiral and there's nobody actually in control of what is going on in this country. That's the honest truth. How many of y'all actually feel that Barbados is being run by a person that somebody's actively making decisions or things that just seem to be happening and we're autopilot, just drifting? And in all of that all of that madness, you have the Barbados Lighting Power saying that there might be implications if they do not get their oppressive rate increase. I do not know how you read or how you read or when you heard the Lighting Power director saying that there will be implications if their rate increase is not granted. But to me, it sounds like a threat to turn off the lights. How can the sole electric company in your country threaten the people of a sovereign government? Supposed to be a republic. Let me put the suppose there. And you have a government that is silent. You have all of these organizations sitting down and you're allowing a private entity to literally say to Barbadians, I do not get more money, I will turn off the lights on you. And everybody just seems to think, I'm thinking, how could this be normal? How are we just sitting down? Now, Barbadians are experiencing a cost of living crisis, all of these things. And the Barbados Lighting Power has been reaping the rewards over the last 11 years Average payout to shareholders was $48 million in profits, $48 million over a decade. That's an average payout of $10 million. And then it was discovered that the Light and Power also had an insurance fund of $100 million more than was necessary. But instead of using that excess money to repair and upgrade the plant, the Barbados Light and Power paid out dividends, the giddy money to the shareholders. And in all of this, the Fair Trading Commission that is supposed to defend Barbadians actually are allowing the rate increase. And I have something to share with you tonight. Because I got some documents. I ain't know when I fall off it, but I got some documents here. So let me, I can take this one slow because I want you gotta take this in. So you have a Fair Trading Commission that, well, it's in the name, fair trading, should be out there defending, representing the interests of you. To get a decent rate that you can live, you can pay your bills. The reality, if the electricity bill goes up, it affects the entire economy. Don't mind people talking foolishness about, oh, it's only $2 or $3 or $6 or $12, and I got Barbadians who can afford that. That is not it, because that cost will ripple through the entire economy. So the price of everything else got to go up. When you go to the fish market, when you go to the supermarket, refrigeration costs, the lights that you see on here, everything is going to go up. So it ain't just a little $12 or $6 increase. And even if it's a $12 or $6 increase, we know there are Barbadians who cannot afford that. That is just where we are. I don't know why we are pretending otherwise. This is Barbados in 2022. And unless we understand where we are, we do not understand what we have to fix and where we need to go. This is not about spin. This is about talking truth and straight talk to the people of this country. So you have a Fair Trading Commission. And it only gets worse because in the middle of that rate increase hearing, the proceedings, the Light and Power and the Fair Trading Commission, I ain't gonna let them blow away. Light and Power and the Fair Trading Commission had a private secret meeting. So, and as you would know, the only reason we found out about this secret meeting is some things that lawyers like to keep real good notes. So, in a letter dated 10th of August 2022, let me make sure I get it right. 10th of August 2022, the lawyers for the Light and Power let it slip that on the morning of the 9th of August, Tuesday 2022, the Light and Power team met with the Fair Trading Commission at the request of the Light and Power to discuss the interveners. The interveners that out there trying to fight for you and me. You understand that? The Light and Power and the Fair Trading Commission had a meeting about the interveners to which the interveners were not invited. A secret meeting that nobody knew about until somebody let it slip in a letter. And it only gets worse because at this meeting, and it wasn't some random meeting, you had senior executives of the Light and Power and of the Fair Trading Commission. And we know this from another letter from the FTC side dated the 31st of August 2022. Now, and this is so tragic, right? If it weren't so tragic, it would be funny. It seems that at that meeting, everybody forgot to take the minutes. So there is no record of what actually happened at the meeting. We know the meeting took place because somebody let it slip. But there is actually no record. Now, tell me honestly, to God's honesty truth, what Bajan meeting does occur without minutes? Or a transcript? The choir group that's got minutes. The youth group that's got minutes. The cricket club that's got minutes. Your meeting turn. The Dominoes club, the running club. The mothers union that's got minutes. I mean, somebody's just got a family meeting and you got minutes. There is no meeting in Barbados, to be realistic. They just love minutes. I'm being serious. Everybody said, Mike, I can put this in the minutes. I want the minutes to reflect this. And you telling me two of the most important agencies to determining what we will pay for electricity had a meeting and nobody has a record of that meeting because they ain't got the minutes. Let me read you from the letter dated August the 31st. It says, who was present at the said meeting, and there is no transcript of that meeting. You may wish to know that the meeting was informal. So you are the Fair Trading Commission of Barbados, you are the Light and Power of Barbados, and y'all having an informal meeting? Y'all is friends? And one of, as I said, the most important decisions of this country, and don't let me forget to tell you that the board secretary was at the meeting, and you telling me that nobody, everybody left that room, everybody, someone got amnesia, nobody can't see what happened at the meeting, but they had the meeting. $1 billion company, a well-oiled regulator, and nobody understands the basics of how to have a meeting? And then you get a letter dated the 8th of September. All this is real. The 8th of September. Demanding a rate increase. And guess what happens on the 18th of September, about a week later? Rate increase has been granted. But at the same time, the Fair Trading Commission cannot take a break for a public counsel, yes, public counsel that represents you and your interests, to come up to speed with the case. Public counsel who was only appointed on the 19th of September, given that the previous one has been off the job since July. But the Light and Power can act quickly, and the FTC, when it comes to the rate increase, but you cannot give the person that is trying to fight for our interests the time of day to come up to speed with her case. And this only gets worse, you know. You think it can't get any worse? Well, watch this. So, another letter, I love, you know, you've got to love a letter, dated September the 19th, 2022. And you would not believe, after getting the rate increase, as Bajans would say, the Light and Power can only be propitious. The Light and Power wrote back to the Fair Trading Commission asking, what about the rate increase for the street lights though? So you get everything, and you actually now also want the rate increase to apply for street lights. A public good that we all need. You're telling me you can't give a break for street lights? That is where we are, ladies and gentlemen. And I am not letting the Barbados Light and Power off the hook. I want them to know, the same way that they said there will be implications, there will be implications if this rate increase is allowed. Implications run both ways. And we have to let them know that there will be implications. As a country, we should not be held ransom by our energy provider. The Democratic Labour Party supports the efforts of all the stakeholders, all the interveners in fighting for us. Let us support them, let us fight for them so that they can do their job on our behalf, because they're fighting for you. Do not let them fight alone. It is time to get up for something. If not now, when will you stand for a cause? When will you say enough is enough, this is my country, and I demand and I deserve better? They always say we're passive people. Let us prove them wrong. Because at this stage, we cannot take any more. I surely can't take any more. We are preparing for a battle for the soul of our nation. And it will not be easy. We can only do this together. This is not Ronnie's fight. This is not Corey's fight. This is not Melissa's fight. This is not Rashid, Paul, Nicholas's fight. This is not only the Democratic Labour Party's fight. This is your fight. Our party obviously is being called to serve, and we will fight on your behalf. We will never leave you. But you are being called to join this movement. This movement to change Barbados. You have to get up. I want this party that I love to be the future of this country. But it means that you also have to believe in yourself again. You have to believe in Barbados again. I'm not talking about the kumbaya, all is well, Barbados will be okay, join hands, let's sing a chorus and song. I am talking about real unity, real belief that you have a say in this country and that we will not accept piecemeal policies, we will not accept crumbs from the table, we will not accept policies that keep the poor poor and are destroying the middle class of this country. I'm talking about the sort of belief that will allow people, will allow you to live out your Barbadian dream, provided with opportunities, not handouts, so that any Barbadian boy and girl, any one of you can make something of yourself, whatever you determine your greatness to be. I am talking about the kind of belief that all is possible in the face of what may look impossible. But it requires you to get up and face our challenges as a country, that we can do better. What are you doing? Venting on social media, waiting for bated breath for the next press conference, and you get a whole lot of nothing? Token measures here and there. Well, for too long we have murmured. For too long, we have sat in silence. Get up and make your voices heard. Get up from your corners. Get up from your internet. Get off your Facebook and join this movement. Join this. Do something. Stand for something or fail for everything. Change will not happen by accident. It will happen because you make it happen, because you demand better. You have to believe in you. You have to believe that you are the change this country has been waiting for. Get up, I tell you. Join this movement to change Barbados. Join this movement to make Barbados better for you and your family. This party needs you. Your country needs you. The party that I lead is committed to giving you a full seat at the table and a share in all the bread that is being served. This party is committed to empowering you. We will engage you, we will elevate you. We will empower you. I call on you. I ask you. I implore you. If you want to live out the Barbadian dream again, if you want this country to be great again, if you want this country to be a place where you can live and it is not a place that you pass through, I ask you to stand with us. I ask you to join this movement. I ask you to commit yourself to the change that this Democratic Labour Party is about. Because we can only do this because of you. We're all here because of you. So let us engage, let us elevate, let us empower. Welcome to the Democratic Labour Party. Welcome to the Barbados that we will create together. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
I feel like move any mountain, I trample any building like Hulk. Man better than monster, dismantle any strong tower boy. Trample them, trample them, trample them, trample them. Rip up my shot and bust up my jeans and step on my problems. Then what we gonna do? Trample them, trample them, trample them. Kick out them, kick out my problems, kick out my problems.
Ladies and gentlemen, the leader of the Democratic Labour Party and the next Prime Minister of Barbados, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood.
I feel like move any mountain, I trample any building like Hulk. Man better than monster, dismantle any strong tower boy. Trample them, trample them, trample them, trample them. Rip up my shot and bust up my jeans and step on my problems. Then what we gonna do? Trample them, trample them, trample them. Kick out them, kick out my problems, kick out my problems. Trials and testings does come before blessings, but we have to be patient, yeah.
Good night. Thank you for being a good audience. Stay tuned. Listen out for our listening tours and our next meeting coming up. Stay tuned. Thank you and get home safely.
Sing whoa, hear my plea, oh child. A song from my land. Rose up early this morning to the sounds of crying. Another mother shedding her tears, oh yeah. Why all the pain and suffering?